We are talking Michigan football. I'm Between the Whistles, Detroit.
This is the Cindy and Joe Show, your hometown team.
Yep, and we are talking about Michigan and specifically what happened, what came out in Indy Star, which was not a good look for the Michigan Wolverines.
No.
Especially Jim Harbaugh, because when they said in the article was that Kwitty Paye was limited by his technique that he was coached at by Michigan. Now, Jim Harbaugh came in here, and he was one of the highest paid coaches. There was a lot of people that thought he was going to take Michigan to the next level. He has not. He has not beat Ohio State. He's lost a couple times to Michigan State. Last year, he should not have lost to Michigan State, especially coming off COVID. Mel Tucker is a new coach, and he was at his own stadium, and they lost to Michigan State. That's not good.
But I can't help but smile, and you know why, Joe?
Because you're a Michigan State grad. We know.
I am a Spartan. That's true.
But here's the thing. With Michigan, it's simple. For years, we have always gave them a lot of hype, right? There has always been hype around them. Like, this guy's going to be good. This guy's going to be good. This guy's going to be good. And they never really are that guy. Like, you look at Ohio State, right? And you look at some of their players, like a Joey Bosa, a Nick Bosa. Those guys are elite NFL talents, and they were elite in college. Jeff Okudah was an elite corner in college. He's gonna, he's trying to have a better second year, but you see what I'm trying to say. It's a lot of talent. So you keeping up with the Joneses, you have to coach talent too. That's the thing about Ohio State. They can coach really, really dang good. Obviously, you look at Alabama, look at them. They're always turning out talent. Clemson, if you want to be mentioned in these powers, you have to coach. And what I seen in Indy Star was not good for Michigan because, they were saying that, and I'll read this. Kwitty Paye even said that, when they had him in a five technique right across from the shoulder of the offense tackle, he was playing at a lightly crouched stance, and it was his legs bunched underneath him. And he said, I was kind of laid off the ball. I couldn't really rush outside because the tackle was already set on top of the apex. I'd have to power him. The Colts are teaching him how to play a speed game. And you know what? There's one thing that we can say about the Michigan Wolverines that has been the case for years now, is that they play good against really not great teams, okay? So when they play a team like an Ohio State,
right,
or when they play a team like, a team that has their hair on fire like an MSU, or like if they played Indiana last year and Indiana torched them, and they're going to play Washington in the first game. Washington has speed. They've always had speed. So one of the things that you have to have when you're playing these teams is speed, off the rush, and so when you look at Kwitty Paye and he's not getting taught the right way, and the Colts are having to teach a first-round pick how to speed rush, and he's even saying, I was a little slow off the ball, that's on coaching. And
that's right.
And that's Don Brown is not there no more, but they have a turnover in coaching. They have a lot of coaches that are new. They have a lot of players that are new on the defensive side of the ball. It's going to be interesting because Jim Harbaugh has to show improvement this year.
He absolutely does. And I think that his new contract kind of highlights and puts him in the hot seat a little bit, highlights the reality that he needs to do that. He went from being one of the highest paid coaches in the Big Ten to being one of the lowest paid coaches in the Big Ten. And that's a significant fall from grace in that. And I think it's an indicator too. It made it easy for U of M to buy him out in the event that they want to move on from him. So I really do think that this is his last chance to make a difference. And I think one of the things, he needs to do a few things. And I read an article recently, and I have to agree with these things. One, he's got to beat Michigan State, much as I hate to say that because go green, but he has to beat Michigan State. He really does. Mm-hmm. Number two, he's got to, if not beat Ohio State, he has to make it respectable. Okay, mm-hmm. He's got to stay close on Ohio State. He has to show ongoing improvement throughout the year with his crew, and he's got to, much like the situation you were just talking about, Joe, is that if you're going to go to a program like Michigan, you're looking at a professional career, you expect to be taught and coached the basics, the things you need to know to make yourself an elite prospect and an elite draft pick. And they don't expect these guys to be coming in there onto these, teams and have to teach them some of these basics, like you've talked about. So I think that's the other thing he's got to show. He's got to show ongoing improvement as the season progresses, because that's going to be a testament to the coaching. And then I think the other thing he needs to do is, they have to get, really, they've got to be on top of their recruiting game. That's the other thing. So I think he's got to show progress with the team he's got. He's got to show some real, bring in some real fireworks with his recruiting. And he's got to beat Michigan State, stay close to Ohio State.
Yeah, I think you're right on beating Michigan State. I think Michigan State, if you're going to Michigan State this year,
that's a must-have on the list.
And you have to beat them because you lost them last year in your house. And if you lose them if you lose Mel Tucker twice in 2 years, in his first 2 years, that sets up a bad precedence, I think. And that Ohio State, like you said, they have to play respectable against Ohio State. They've gotten absolutely bludgeoned by Ohio State. It hasn't been close at times. Ohio State has made them look like lost.
Right.
And Ohio State fans, I don't think they really respect the rivalry no more. I really don't think don't think that they just like go, oh, we play Michigan, like that's gonna be a tough game. I think personally, knowing an Ohio State football player like I know one, they don't think of Michigan as this tough team. The team that they think that is tough, and this was never the case before. This is not Michigan football. Michigan State when they come in they're tough. They play tough. Like they played Ohio State tough for years. Last year they played tough against every team that they played. They weren't the most talented team, but they played tough. Michigan, when you look at Michigan players, right? Like Donovan Peoples-Jones was drafted by Cleveland. That guy is a really good NFL talent, and he didn't play nearly as good at Michigan that he did with Cleveland. You look at a guy like Nico Collins, who just got drafted to the Texans. Now he's getting drafted to the Texans, but if Deshaun Watson is his quarterback, you're probably going to see what he can do. There's all these players that are coming out of Michigan, and they're getting better when they get out of Michigan. That should not be the case. Right. I mean, you look at Clemson. You got a guy like Travis Etienne. He's going to come out of the gate looking hot. Trevor Lawrence. You got guys from Alabama like Derrick Henry, who wins a Heisman, and he shows out in NFL. Like this, you have to have these players ready to go. For me, I think that Jim Harbaugh has to get better in his development of his players, because I think that's what's really costing him. Because if you're a player and you're looking at an NFL career, are you really looking at Michigan?
You used to be. That's the problem. You used to be.
You used to be.
Right.
Now you look at, like, if you have your shot to go to Clemson, or you have your shot to go to Ohio State, or you have your shot to go to Alabama, you're going to those places because they can get you to the pros. It's just like it's like the Derek Barnes with the Lions, right? They said that if he was with any other team other than Purdue, he would have been a top 20 pick, but he played at Purdue. That's a problem. Michigan is a high historic program, and it hasn't gotten better since Lloyd Carr left. It's actually gotten worse. Lloyd Carr was one of the best coaches that program has ever seen, and you look at what they're seeing now. It's an embarrassment, because that's not Michigan football. What you're seeing is a team that's a shell of themselves, because the Michigan of old got players to the pros. They got great players to the pros. Like, you would see a Desmond Howard, Charles Woodson, Tom Brady, those guys. When's the last time a Michigan quarterback is gone in the first 3 rounds of the NFL draft? Crickets.
That's right.
What's the last running back from Michigan that's actually been really, really good? Mike Hart. I was in 5th grade. That just tells you how bad it's been. When I was growing up, it was up until I was in middle school, Michigan was really, really good, and then they took a downfall. You don't see the players that they used to have, like the Chet Henneys, the Mike Harts, Braylon Edwards, the Charles Woodsons, Desmond Howards. You don't see them no more. That's a problem. And I think what you need to do is what Lamar Woodley said. Yeah, he's been saying that a lot. Is they need some dogs, and he says, the one thing that when you have to come with a chip on your shoulder playing football. You can't just think that you're entitled to be where you're at because you play at a certain school. You look at Alabama, you look at Clemson, you look at Ohio State. They don't have that entitlement, and they should have that entitlement, but they don't because the coaching says, no, you have to earn every rep that you get.
Yeah.
That's the difference between the good teams and the bad teams. And, we used to see with Notre Dame, they used to come to Notre Dame, they used to think that they were the cat's meow.
Right.
And they would get absolutely bludgeoned by the good teams. That's the same thing with Michigan. So if anything, Jim Harbaugh needs to get better. He needs to get better at his development and more so teach his team how to be more aggressive, take every snap as it is. You see Michigan State last year, they weren't the most talented team, but they had, they were a tough team. Indiana, they beat Michigan too. Tough team.
Well, isn't it interesting about managing expectations? We talk about successful organizations know how to manage expectations. And I will tell you that Michigan has just done an absolutely horrific job of managing the expectations of their alumni, of their student body, of the sports media, of the fan base. And Michigan State, on the other hand, has done a tremendous job of exceeding those expectations. So I think that, you got to get this program back online, and Michigan, from an administrative standpoint, has got to do a better job of managing the expectations and then having the courage to make changes, even if they weren't on that trajectory. They've got to be willing to make those changes to affect their program immediately.
So what you're saying is they should make the changes.
I was trying to be diplomatic.
So what you're saying is they should make the changes like at coaching if it doesn't pan out.
That's right.
See, that's what we do. Me and Cindy, we have we're gonna be talking Michigan football all fall long, and obviously we want you to follow along. So please hit the button to like us and follow us. We will be talking Lions in the next segment. Is the roster better than people think? Me and Cindy have our opinions. We will get to that next.